quite the festive period for a whole lot of people. So taking your time to come here is really a great thing. Ireland, Texas, oh, fantastic, fantastic. Okay. So the basic plan for today is I'm going to go over the homework questions that I put in the forum, and that'll hopefully give you a chance to see how we can solve it, and I'll also get a chance to describe some things. If people have questions, obviously don't hesitate to ask. And then we're going to spend the rest of the time talking about strings and text and how we can really work with them. And we've already used strings a bit in text, but now we're going to take a deeper dive into it. That's going to take a few weeks. I mean, you could take a long time to talk about strings and text because they're such an important central thing in Python and programming in general. But we're just going to take a few weeks to talk about sort of the core most important things. And that'll just sort of give you a roadmap of where we're going. That'll allow us to start talking about loops as well, how we can repeat things, which is another sort of essential core feature of programming languages, sort of like if and else is core in every language. So different kinds of loops are also core. But first, we got to sort of get through the initial stuff with strings. All right, so let me pull up on my other screen here the homework that we had from last time. And by the way, when I say homework, I want to be like very clear. There's no grades. This is all for fun. This is all just for learning. People who do want to submit their homework, and if I get a chance to review it in the forum, you are super welcome to do that. And I hope that in doing so, several things will happen. First of all, it's often a good forcing function, right? If you're not sure about something and you have to like present it to other people, you'll sort of work on it more and think about it more. So in that sense, it can be helpful. The second thing is that you can show your code to other people and you can get feedback on it. I do want people to give feedback to one another. And the third thing is that you can then learn from other people's code as well. Now, right now, these homework assignments are relatively simple, and that doesn't mean they're easy to do, but the answers are simple enough that there's not going to be a lot of variation there. But as we get a little further along in the course, there will almost certainly be more variation, and like there'll be different ways to do things. And then comparing notes on how people did different things is a really good thing. So I hope people will participate in the forum, asking questions of each other, including of me, and also posting code. And I realize, and I mentioned this in the forum also, posting code when you're a newcomer to writing code is really like scary because you're basically saying, hey everyone, here's my first time ever doing this. What do you think? So I'm going to ask that like people be nice to each other both in the comments and sort of and then thick-skinned when it comes to receiving comments. And I think the combination there hopefully will work well. But so far there's been a lot of good discussion. I'm happy about that. All right. So by the way, before I forget, I did put today's notebook, which hasn't started yet, in GitHub. So if you, and I'm just going to give you here the address. Hold on just a second. There it is. And now I can put it in the chat. Come on. Hopefully we won't have problems like last time. So basically, I'm going to be sharing my screen in a few moments, and then you'll be able to see what I'm doing. If you want to see it in the Jupyter Notebook, sort of a read-only version of what I'm doing, you can go to that address and choose today's notebook. That notebook will usually update about 1 or 2 minutes after I do it. So it's a little bit of a delay. So it's not real time. You do have to refresh it in your browser. So it's not like super magical, but it's kind of magical. It's kind of good in that it works that way. And then you can follow along. And of course, when the course is over, when today's session is over, you can look at it there. You can also look at it and download it from the course page as well, along with this video, which I'll upload as soon as it's ready. Probably today, about half an hour after we're done, but it might have to wait until tomorrow night. I hope not, but that might be the case. Okay, so let me then share my screen here. Let's like do a little screen magic, share screen. All right, it's asking me what I want to do. Let's do desktop 1. Ba-bum, there we go. Okay, that looks like it's being shared. There we go, excellent. And then if I go to the other screen, and here, and I choose, okay, so I'm just gonna like copy and paste questions that I gave you folks. Okay, paste this in here. Okay, oh, so it's because of like, okay, fine. We'll deal with all that fun stuff with like indentation and everything a little bit. All right, so now here I'm just gonna like reformat this. So it'll actually be, oh, I know I'm gonna do, okay, hold on a second. Just like do a little formatting magic here. Let's do that. Well, that was like not super useful. Okay, fine. I guess I should have like cut and pasted this a little bit earlier, but fine. Okay, so the first question was, I want you to ask the user to enter their birth year and then tell the user how old they will turn this year. So what are we gonna do? So I'm going to say here, birth year, and I can really choose whatever I want as a, here, let me just pull this up so I can like see Zoom stuff on the side, Q&A, and where's the chat? Where's the chat? There we go. Okay, great. So you can choose whatever variable names you want. One of the most important things to remember with variable names is that they are not meant for the computer, they're meant for other people, including yourself. So you want to choose variable names that mean something, that make your code express itself. So you don't have to use too many comments to say, oh, in this code, X means the year and Y means the birth year. No, you don't want that, just use birth year. And it's also pretty traditional in Python to use only lowercase letters in variable names. And if you have to separate them, like if you want to have two words, you would use an underscore there. This is sometimes known as snake case because it stays low to the ground. It's supposed to camel case, which goes up and down like camels. And I wish I were clever enough to make jokes like that. So you're stuck with my dumb jokes. All right, so I actually am not a big fan of the underscores. I'm gonna say birth year equals, and we're gonna ask the user, and enter your birth year. Okay, and so the user's gonna enter that, and then what do I wanna do? Well, I wanna tell them how old they're gonna turn this year. So I can even put this in a new variable. So I can say here, age this year equals 2020. It's 2020, folks, believe it or not, minus, we're never gonna forget this year, minus birth year. Now, some of you might be saying, wait, there's a bug here. Right, shh, don't tell. So here's what's gonna happen. I'm now gonna say, print this year, you will turn age this year. And then using an F string here, oops, age this year. And using an F string here, the F means, hey, inside of this string, whenever you encounter curly braces, substitute the curly braces and everything inside of it with the value of what you have here, which here means just the variable value. Could I have said 2020 minus birth year in here? Absolutely. I find it a little easier to debug things when I do it procedurally or sequentially like this, but like no rule on that front. Okay, so now let's try this. I'm gonna say here, my birth year is 1970, and boom, it's gonna blow up. Slowly, it would seem. There we go. And it says, unsupported operand types for minus, int and stir. Now, if you're new to programming, and you probably are if you're in this course, you're like, what do they want from me? Like, why can't it just tell me what I'm doing wrong? And of course, it is telling you what it did wrong. It's just not saying it in a very obvious way. What it's basically saying is, listen, bozo, you are trying to use minus, subtraction here. And on the left side, you have an integer, but on the right side, you have a string. And you could sort of make that out from this error message, minus, int, and stir. And say, you can't do that. I don't know what to do in this case. And you might remember that we talked about this a little bit in the past, that the input function always returns a string. Because it always returns a string, we need to make sure to convert it into an integer if and when we want to use it in integer sorts of things, or floats for float sort of things. So what I can do here is I can say 2020 minus int of birth year, and int, the function, returns an integer, creates a new integer based on birth year. So it's not changing birth year. Birth year will continue to be a string. But now we've said int of birth year, then this whole expression here is an integer, and then there's not a problem. So if I say here 1970, please return 50. Shocking, but true, but true. Okay, questions about the, oh, do I have the link to the Jupyter Notebook? I'll put that in again. Sorry, here, so it's at, let me see if I can just like copy this link again. Copy, oop, put in there. All right, there you go, Mark. And if that doesn't help, you know, I'll put it here as well. Let's do this. There you go. So hopefully, are there libraries you can call in Python? Oh, yes, there are libraries. So Python comes with a whole lot of libraries. It's known as the standard library. And the Python world would call those modules and packages. And we're going to talk about that sort of toward the end of this course, but here and there we'll sort of hint at it and we'll see it. And so Python itself comes with hundreds and hundreds of modules in the standard library. And then there's something known as PyPI. PyPI is the Python Package Index, which has more than 200,000 different modules and packages that you can download from the internet and use immediately in your programs. By the way, as with all things, most of PyPI is junk, but a ton of it, even like a small proportion of PyPI being great, means that there's a lot of great stuff out there. So absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so any more questions about this? If not, let's go. Okay, now we're gonna make it more complicated. So then we're gonna add to this an if statement that says if they're young or old or just right based on their age, right? And be gentle to those of us who aren't as young as they used to be. Okay, so what am I going to do here? Well, now I have this variable, age this year. So I can now say if age this year, well, let's figure out what we want to do. So I'm going to say here, like, if they're under, I don't know, 18, then, you know, they're just kids. And if they are, I don't know, over, oh, okay, I know I'm going to offend someone here, right? If they're over 65, then we'll give them extra respect. And if they're anywhere in the middle, then we'll just, like, you know, toss them on the dust heap. No, then we'll just, like, say hello. So I'm going to say here, if age this year is less than 18, then I'll say print, you are very young, right? And elif age this year is greater than 65, then we'll say print, you are amazing. Notice the subtle way of saying here, we're not going to say they're old, right? Just amazing. And then we can say here, else print, right? You are middle-aged, believe it or not. The answer is not. So now what happens if I run this? If elif and else, only one of those is going to fire. So if the age this year is less than 18, if that is true, if this returns a true value, then that block runs. If that's not true, then we try again. elif age this year is greater than 65. Was that true? If it's true, then this block runs. And each block here is just one line, but fine. And then if that's not true in all other cases, then we'll get this. So right now it's going to say you're middle-aged, believe it or not. End of story. So the whole key with if, elif, and else is you can have as many elif clauses as you want, but basically these are mutually exclusive. Okay, questions or comments about this? You folks, a few minutes on that one. A few moments on that one. Meanwhile, I'm just going to reformat this here. Okay, that. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, last one has to do with floating point numbers. Not a big difference, but some difference. Okay, so, all right. So what are we going to do now? Well, there's got to be like a better way to format this. It would be not in Jupyter, I think. Okay, so imagine a world in which people could go outside for a walk or a run. All right, have the user enter a distance they walked or ran, and how many minutes it took them to go that far, and then tell them how fast they go. So let's start off with the simplest thing, and I can't stress enough that when you are programming, you want to start with like the simplest possible thing that gets you from point A to point B, a little bit of progress. And then you make a little bit more, and then you make a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. If you try to bite off everything at once, it'll be like you're going to mess up somewhere. It is a very, very rare programmer who can actually just start, sit down, type code, get up, it's done. Super, super unusual. Okay, thank you. I'm not sure if everyone can see the questions, but if you can, great. I actually have no idea how the Q&A works for everyone else. So here, I'm going to, I guess I'll try. Well, I'm going to say it's there. All right, let's hope that worked. All right, so how are we going to do this? I'm going to say here, distance equals, because I can use any variable in name I want, input, how far did you run? And then I'll say here, minutes equals input, how many minutes did it take you? So I can put whatever text I want in here. I can give it to input. So input's going to get a distance, input's going to get minutes, and then we can say here, well, we want to calculate how far they went. Oh, I was trying to say, you want to do the simplest thing possible. Don't try to bite off everything at once, and then little by little you'll do it. It's sort of like when I was in graduate school, I was working on my dissertation. Someone explained to me, like doing a dissertation is like basically a war of attrition. Just every day you sort of go a little further, a little further, a little further, and basically if like if the thesis doesn't defeat you, then you defeat the thesis and you graduate. So that's what happened to me. I actually ended up graduating. It took me a long time. War stories for another time, folks. All right. So now what do I want to do? Now I want to figure out how long did it take me? How fast did I go? So I'm not going to worry about I'm not going to worry about converting to hours just yet. So I'm going to say here, right? So we're saying like pace equals distance divided by minutes. Not what we want in the end, but we're going to get closer and closer. So I'm going to say here, print, right? You ran at a pace of pace. And we'll say here, let's say, how far did you run in, let's call it meters, and how many minutes did it take you? So say, meters per minute. Okay, use the distance, right. So I just decided, thank you there. All right, so now I'm gonna do this. Now, again, it's gonna give me an error. Why am I gonna get an error? Because input always returns a string. So I'm gonna say I went 10 kilometers. All right, and let's say it took me, I don't know, let's call it an hour, just like, well, actually, let's call it like, let's call it 90 minutes. That's a really long time to go. Anyway, fine. Fine, we'll call it 60 minutes. Fine. And now it's going to give me a type error. Once again, it's saying, I have no idea what you want me to do here. How am I supposed to use slash for division between two strings? So we're going to have to change these from being strings. But we don't want to make them floating. We don't want to make them integers. We want to make them floating point numbers. So I'm going to say here, pace equals a float of distance divided by float of minutes. Oh, you made it. Great. Okay. And now if I do this, if I say here, I went 10 meters. That's really, I was thinking kilometers. 10 meters in, well, let's call this like, well, fine, we'll say 60 minutes. You ran at a pace of 0.16 meters per minute. Okay, that's like, that's worth something. Let's try this again. What if I say like I went 10,000 meters in 60 minutes? Now it's saying we went 166 meters per minute. Okay, so far so good. Excellent, but this, of course, was not the specification. Specification was how fast do you go per hour? And this is like a super common kind of thing to do where you get input in one kind of units and you want to output another kind of units. True story. I think it was probably 20, 25 years ago, NASA launched a probe to Mars and it got all the way to Mars and then like blew up when it was trying to actually land on Mars. And the reason is because the scientists at NASA had used, I think, inches, and the scientists they were working with in Europe has used centimeters, and that didn't work so well. So you actually do want to be really, really sure that you have that everyone's on the same page in terms of units. All right, so how are we going to do this? So if I don't want minutes, if I want to say not per minute, but per hour, how am I going to do that? Well, I can say here that the number of minutes, right, if I divide that by 60, that'll be per hour. So we'll say here hours equals minutes, we'll say float minutes, divided by 60. And then I can say here, pace equals float of distance per hours. And then we should be fine. So if I say here, I went 10,000 meters, that's like 10 kilometers, and it took me 60 minutes, sure enough, I'm running at 10,000 meters an hour. If you can't do that, if you need a computer to do that math, you're really in trouble. So, oh, excellent, thank you. And if I go like, 10,000 meters, 10 kilometers, and it takes me 45 minutes, now I'm running at, 13 kilometers an hour, which is pretty good. Not happening. All right, so that's how we can use float, and that's how you can see that every time we get input, if we don't want a string, we're gonna have to convert it somehow. Questions, comments? Oh, here we go. Yeah. How do we get to the, Ted asked, how do we get to the forum for this course? I'll put it here to be forum.learner.co.il. You should have gotten an invite to the forum. It sometimes takes me up to a day or two to invite people to the forum because I have to do that. What did I say? Oh, that's funny. Oh, I see. I wanted to go to everyone. How do I get to go to everyone? Oh, everyone in meeting. There we go. Sorry, I'll do that again. Forum.learner.co.il. If you did not get the invite, it's either because you just registered in the last day or so, or it went to your junk or spam. Can we round off the answer? I am so glad you asked that. The answer is yes, and I literally found this out a few days ago. So I'm telling you, I've been using Python since, was it 1992 or so. A day does not go by without me discovering something about the language, and I can't believe I never knew that there was a round function in Python. So watch this. If I'd say here, like pace is 30 and 30, if I say round of pace, voila, I now get an integer based on that. And it does the standard sort of rounding. If I would say round of 10.5, that gets rounded to 10, and a round of 10.6 is rounded to 11. So this function actually, yes, we're definitely using Python 3 here. Definitely Python 3. I don't know, it's round. I think round might even be in Python 2, but F strings are only in Python 3, and I would say only starting in Python 3.6. I would strongly recommend using that. Okay, so. Any other questions about this stuff? Oh, can you force it to round up or down? Maybe. Help on round. No. So this, well, I'd say the answer always with me is yes and no. So you can't use the built-in round function to force it to go up or down unless you want to play games like, plus 0.5 or something. But what you can do is there are other ways to do it. William was asking before if there are modules and like libraries in Python. There's a math module. Because it's only going to a different precision. So I guess the answer is there you go. But that's two decimal places. That doesn't mean that's going to be forced to go up or down. I think it's still going to do like the 0.5 goes down and 0.5 something goes up. But you can like play games with that if you want. But there is like a like a math module that you can use, and that has some extra fancy rounding in it if you need. But I'm telling you, like I saw this a few days ago, and I said, wait a second. Since when is there a round function in Python? Years. I just never noticed, never knew it. I'm telling you, like learning a programming language is like learning a human language. It just takes forever because you're always discovering new things. You're like, oh, how did I not know that? Okay, let's jump into strings. So we've already seen that, like some basics of strings. So I can define a string. I can say S equals A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Fantastic. I've defined a string, and you can use single quotes, like apostrophes on either side. You can use double quotes, so double quotation marks on either side. You just have to use the same thing on both sides. So you can't use one, like one and the other. And then what can I do? Now that I've defined the string, I've created a new string object. I've created a string, and I've assigned it to S. So if I say, hey, Python, what's the type of S? What type of value is stored in the variable S? And Python will say, oh, that's string. Okay. Now, I know that some people have some experience with other programming languages, and it's really, really, really important to point out that when we say type of S, we are not asking what kind of variable is S. We're asking what kind of value is in that variable. And let me show you why. If I say X equals 100, right? So we're assigned the value 100 to the variable X. And now I say, what's the type of X, right? So, and that's gonna, again, return what type of value is stored in the variable X. And sure enough, it's gonna be an int, an integer. But then if I say X equals ABCD, right now, assign ABCD a string to X. Will that work in Python? Absolutely 100%. And I say, what's the type of X? And it'll say, oh, you've got a string there. Now, people who come from languages like C or C++ or Java look at this and like nearly fall off their chairs because this would not be possible in those languages. And in Python, we're like, oh, that's a good thing. The fact that a variable can contain many different types is overall a good thing. The attitude's changing a bit in the last few years, but overall it's still accurate. So when I say what's the type, I'm not asking what type of variable it is. I'm asking rather what type of value is the variable storing, or stored in the variable, should I say. All right, well, what can I do with my string? Now I've defined it, or I can print it. That we've seen, I can say like print S. Oh, that's pretty exciting, right? Well, one thing I can do is I can get the length of the string. So I can say here len of S, right? It returns an integer. And so the len of S is 26. So those of you who are a little unclear on how many letters are in the English alphabet, now you know what an education you're getting in this course. You can see already. Okay, so len is another built-in function. So we've seen a bunch of them. We've seen input, we've seen print, we've seen len, because we've seen round now, we've seen type. There are a lot of these built-in functions running around, something like 30 of them or so, that we can call it various ways at various times. Okay, so we got len. What else can we do with our string? Well, this is where things start to get fun. Let's say I want to retrieve the first letter from S. So this is where things start to get a little complicated in the course, folks. So we use square brackets and put the index we want in the brackets. So I'm going to say S square brackets, and then I'm going to say 0, and I get A. Now, there are a few things to notice here. The first thing is 0, what the heck? Like, shouldn't that be 1? And the answer is no. Where did you learn to count? Clearly, we start counting with 0, right? And by the way, like the programming language world is split on this. So about half of programming languages, maybe like 2/3 of programming languages now, start counting with 0, and the others start counting with 1. It's very much like a design decision what they want. And the people who start counting with 1 as the first letter in the string are like, duh, we're human. First thing should be 1. And the people who start counting with 0 say, what, you're going to waste a whole number? That's ridiculous. We start counting with 0. So there you go. And what do we get back from this? When I ask for S of 0, I get back a string, a tiny baby string, just A, because that is what I've got there. So I can ask for anything, or I could say S of 10, and that's going to give me the 11th, right? It gives me the 11th letter, which is K, right? And if I say S of 20, this gives me the 21st letter, which is going to be U. And what if I ask for S of 25? So this gives me the final letter, right, which is Z. And what if I ask for S of like 100? Well, it's going to give me an error message. It's going to say you can't do that, right? String index out of range. You can choose 0, you can choose 25, you can choose anything in the middle, but you cannot just like choose some arbitrary random number that's beyond the bounds. By the way, there are languages where you are allowed to do that, and they'll give you some sort of undefined value back. Like they actually are okay with that. So if you have a string and you want to retrieve a letter from that string, you can totally 100% do that based on this. Okay, questions or comments until here? Okay, so let's keep going. Obviously, if you have questions, you can keep keep sending them in the chat. So, oh, arrange. Ah, Larry, you read my mind. Okay, so let's say I'm not interested in just getting one letter. Let's say I want to get a bunch of letters. I want a bunch of letters from S. How about I want everything from index 10 to index 20? So what I can do in Python, I can ask for a slice. And here's how that looks. S square brackets 10 colon 20. And so this returns returns the substring as it's known from index 10 to 20, not including 20. So it never includes the upper range there. So what am I going to get back? Well, I'm going to get back 10 characters, right? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So I get 10 characters back. This is a string. It's a smaller string, it's a substring, but it is indeed a string. So we've retrieved a range or a slice from within our existing string. And this turns out to be a very powerful sort of thing to do, because I can then say, oh, I'm interested in everything but the first character. I'm interested, well, I'll show you how to do some more fancy stuff like that, right? I want the third through the fifth characters. Imagine reading data in a log file or some sort. You might have to imagine if you've never seen such a thing, and I'm only interested in these columns of data. So you can easily do that using Python with a slice. But slices can get even cooler than this, and we're not going to go into all the detailed slices here. But I can say S from colon to 10, and this means from the start to the end, to not including index 10. I can also say S from 20 to colon. It means from index 20 to the end. If you want to receive letters which are not one after another. So, Ronnie has okay, now we're getting, so I wasn't planning to show you this, but because I was asked, watch this. So let's say I want to get, so I want all letters from 10 to 20, but let's say, let's do this. I want every other letter from 10 to 20. So this is where slices get a little more complex, even a lot more complex. So I can use a 3-part slice. And we say start, colon, end, colon, step size. How much do we increase each time? So if I say S from 10 until 20, colon 1, this is the default step size of 1. And then we just get 10, 11, 12, 13, and so forth. But if I say S 10, 22, this means step size of 2. And look what we get back. K, skip over L. M, skip over N. P, O, skip over P. Q, skip over R, and then S. So I can even mix this together. So if I want all letters in S from the start to the end, or let's put it this way. If I want every other letter in all of S, I can say S colon 2. And this means from the start to the end, step size of 2. Meaning we're going to start at the beginning and then skip over 1. So 1, 2. And then get that letter. And then 1, 2. And then get that 1, 2. And so that 1, 2 allows us to do a sort of skipping over. Oh, so S is just a string. So I can say S is a string that I assigned before. So I can reassign it whenever I want. So I can say here, S equals whatever. And it can be any letters at all. Right, so I can say here, right, S equals Reuben. I can say here, S from 2 until 5, skipping by 2. And so we get UE. Why? We start the 0, 1, 2. So we start with a U, and then we're going to go, so we're going to say, this is U, skip 1, E, so we get UE, and then that's it. We've gotten to the end. So it turns out that indexes are very useful, and slices can also be very, very useful. They allow you to sort of carve up your string in a variety of ways and retrieve things that you're interested in. I should also add that these techniques for retrieving from strings, and many of the things we're going to see with strings, are actually used in many other data structures in Python, especially strings, lists, tuples. They're all part of the same family. And so once you sort of start to try to get the information about, like, well, so once you get the sort of, shall we say, the syntax of how to do stuff with strings, that will lend itself to understanding other data structures in Python as well. So that works out pretty well. All right. Any other questions until here? Can you slice out just vowels, consonants? Ooh, good question, Bob. That would be more complicated. I mean, what you could do is if you knew like where they were, but a slice is basically saying starting at some index until some index, skipping by some number, right? So so unless you have some unusual language in which like the vowels are every 5 letters, and you know that you can skip over them, you're going to be sort of in trouble. But that was good. That was good. There are other techniques for doing this sort of thing. Yeah. Okay, so let's say I have now S. And I'm like, oh, well, fine, doesn't really matter. And then I say S of 0 is capital R, S of 1 is this. I say, you know what? I think I'm going to change my name a little bit here. I'm going to say S of 0 equals Q. So we're going to replace the first letter of S with Q. Not allowed. Not allowed ever, ever, ever in Python. And this is what they call a big idea in, like, you know, the programming world or the programming education biz, right? So strings are immutable. Once created, they can never, ever, ever be changed. So I created the string S. I assigned this, or I created the string Reuben, and I assigned it to the variable S. Now, the string itself can never be changed. I can assign a new string to S. I can say S equals, you know, ABCD. That's fine, but I haven't actually changed the original string. I did something like this with our first class, but I'm going to do it here as well. Let me just grab a piece of paper. Okay. So if I say, let's just do this. If I say here, you know, well, S equals ABCD, I'm just going to do this once again. And then we say here, S refers to A, B, C, D. You can see here, I don't see myself, I'm going to assume you can see it. S, the variable, is referring to A, B, C, D. So far, so good. And then I say S equals E, F, G, H. So what's happening then? Well, we're creating a new string, E, F, G, H. And then we're having S refer to that. So basically, we have 2 completely separate strings here. And so this gives us the illusion that S has changed, but it hasn't really changed. The string has not changed. Rather, S is now referring to something else. And so this idea of immutability, that a string can never change, is really important. We're going to keep talking about what is mutable, what can be changed, and what is immutable, what cannot be changed throughout this course. And it's an important idea to keep with you whenever you work with Python. Because now you might be thinking, what kind of crazy idea is this? like I want to work with text, and we know that I can use Python for working with text. How can it possibly be that we can never change a string? Like, what if I mistype something? Oh, and by the way, S right now is EFGH. So how can this be? And the answer is basically that this both removes a lot of bugs from programs, and more importantly, it makes the language more efficient. Because when we create a string now in Python, if I print, yeah, I'll just print. So when you create a string in Python, I guess this way, you create a string in Python, it lasts forever. The string lasts forever, but the variable can keep pointing to new things. But the string itself cannot change. Okay, so this is a hard idea, and we're going to keep talking about it quite a bit. I should also add, right? So a lot of people think, yeah, immutable. You have to remember, immutable is not the same as constant. If you've ever worked with another programming language where there are constants, this is not the same idea. A constant in another language means that a name points permanently, refers permanently to a value. That does not exist in Python anywhere. Here we're saying the name can refer to this and refer to that and refer to some other thing, but the string cannot change. Ah, okay. Sorry, you think you caught me? Ha, you didn't, but you demonstrated great illusion there. So what if I say here, S equals indeed A, B, C, D, and then I say S equals S plus S. And sure enough, ha, you see, I changed S. No, you didn't. Well, you changed S, the variable, but let's see what happened there. All right, these are really good questions. These are good points. So I'm going to say S refers to A, B, C, D. One of these days I'm going to use the whiteboard in Zoom. Okay, so we have S referring to that. Now, in line 2, I say S equals S plus S. What happens? Always, always, always in assignment, and here I have an assignment, right side before left side. So the right side has to give us a value. What is the value? It is a new string. It's the new string A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. So now we have 2 strings. We have a short one, A, B, C, D, and a long one, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. Then once we've got that value, we say have S refer to that. What does that mean? It means that S is now pointing to, referring to the new longer string. Did we change S? Yes, we changed what the variable is referring to, but we didn't change the string itself. We didn't change the value of the string. And that's a hard idea to get, but it's an important one. And we're going to see it pop up time and time again. So once you create a string, you can't change it. But you know what? In Python, we sort of pretend that we can change it because of the stuff that you've been seeing, because I can do a plus, because I can use a substring on it with a slice, because I can put inside of an F string, create a new string based on it. All this stuff really is not so terrible to work with. It just requires on occasion that you remember that you can't actually modify strings. When S is changed, can we see the old value? No. Oh, that's good. So watch this. If I say here X equals 10, print X. And I say X equals 20, print X. Can I go back and get the history of what was in X before? Can I say, hey, what was X before it was 20? No, the previous value is gone. In the same way, if I say X equals A, B, C, D, print X, and then I say here, X equals E, F, G, H, print X, I've lost it. I basically lost that original value of A, B, C, D. It's no longer available to me. Okay? Other questions about this, and I promise that we're going to talk about this lots more. That's also not in men. I'm not sure what that means. I'm sorry. Oh, we can check the immutable power. So, oh, no. Okay, Alina's asking there or saying, we can check the immutable power by verifying the ID is going to be the same. That is not true. Well, it's sort of true, I'll say. Basically, you could sort of ask, are 2 things the same behind the scenes in Python and memory? But ID, if just because something has the same ID as something else does not mean it's immutable. It's the whole ID business is a subtle point. So the previous value will not be available in memory. So what happens in our case here, right? So I assigned A, B, C, D, right? And then I said S equals A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. What happens to this previous string? Right, like Larry's asking, what's the point of having in memory if I can't access it? Well, you can't access it because it's not available to you, because at some point, this string here, it's going to go through what's known as garbage collection. Python is going to notice that no one is actually referring to this string anymore, and it's going to get rid of the string altogether. And this sort of automatic memory management has existed in programming languages for 50 years, but it's only with Java that people start taking it seriously for mainstream languages. So if you say X equals 10, and then you say X equals 20. And then you say here, where is 10? Gone. That's a little bit of a lie. A little bit, because Python actually treats small numbers specially. But in general now, if I say print X, it's going to say 20, no history, no recollection. You could say your computer has no memory. It only feels that way. But basically, X is only 20, and it has no recollection whatsoever that it had 10. You don't have a history of what values were there before. Although, I'm going to write that down. That would be a great exercise to give people. Hold on a second. Not you, don't worry. But there's questions like this give me inspiration for how to torture my more advanced classes. Give me just a moment. Come on. There we go. Okay. So the previously used value S will still be used where it's used. Oh, okay. So what happens if I do this? What if I say here, x equals a, b, c, d, e, and I say y equals x? So we now have, let's think about how this looks in memory. So I have here x is referring to a, b, c, d, e. Didn't even get that long. All right, so x refers to a, b, c, d, e. And I say y is referring to whatever x is referring to. So y now also refers to a, b, c, d, e. We now have two names referring to the same string. Okay, now I'm going to say x equals xyz. Well, let's not do that. Let's do fgh. What is the value of y? Well, let's just take this logically as we did before. So when I say x equals fgh, what does that mean to assign it? It means x now refers to something else, fgh. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So x now refers to fgh. But y continues to refer to what it was pointing to before, a, b, c, d, e. So when I said y equals x, this does not mean, right, doesn't mean y follows x wherever it goes. Rather, it means y will now refer to whatever x refers to. Result equals fgh. No, actually, y now refers to a, b, c, d, e. Because x was a, b, c, d, e, and then both x and y were a, b, c, d, e. And then we change x, but we did not change y. Y continues to refer to a, b, c, d, e. Let me show this to you, the Python tutor. And by the way, I want to point out this whole business here with the assignment and immutability, it's really hard to get. So I want to do this for a few more moments, and then I want to like move on to other things. Which this will, like the fog here will clear. It might take 20 years, but it will clear. All right, if the Python tutor is not doing this, yeah, let's do this. Come on. Should have loaded it before, I guess. Okay, come on. This stuff really confuses people, even experienced programmers, because Python does this in a very sort of logical way, but we're not wired to think about it this way. We think about, oh, x and y point to the same thing. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna say here x equals 100 and y equals x. And then I'm gonna say here x equals 200, print x. Let's even do this, x equals x. And then y equals y. Oops. There we go. Okay, so watch this. If I now say, okay, so x equals 100, and it's going to stick it into 100. You can see x is equal to 100. And now y equals x. What does that mean? It means we are going to assign to y whatever x is. So now x and y are both 100. Now, it's not going to show in this beautiful visual depiction like I did, right? But we know that both x and y are 100. Now I say x equals 200. And watch this. Now x is 200. Have we changed y? Absolutely not. We have not. And so at this point, x is 200 because we changed its value. And y is 100 because we did not change its value. Basically, because we did not assign y to be anything or reassign y to be anything, it's whatever we assigned it to before. And so the conclusion here should be that assignment in Python, the equal sign in Python means have the variable name on the left, whatever's on the left, x or y or whatever. It now refers to something new. What is it referring to? Whatever's on the right side. But don't think that y equals x means the variable y is sort of following the variable x. No, the variable y now contains whatever the variable x refers to right now. And if x goes off and does its own crazy thing later on, too bad for x. So I can retrieve the visual, yeah. All right, I want to come back to that. I promise we'll come back to this, and this is confusing, but over time it will become more obvious. Cascading style sheet. Oh my God, heaven help us. I hope not. No, I don't think cascading style like CSS for the web. Oh God, I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. So you change the variable when you enter x equals 200 later in the source. So here, when I said x equals 100, y equals x, when I say x equals 200, that means x now refers to 200. And y, we haven't changed y at all. Y continues to refer to what it was referring to before. What was it referring to before? Whatever the value of x was at that point in time, at line 2. Here's a string example here. Okay, I see. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. So let's do that here. So I'm going to say here x equals, and we'll say here, come on. All right, a, b, c, d. And then we'll say here, yeah, oh my God, it's like CSS. And it's good for consultants, but no one else. F, G, H. Okay. So now I'm going to say X is ABCD. So X is ABCD. So far, so good. And we say Y equals X. What does that mean? It means I want the variable Y to contain whatever the variable X now contains. So now X and Y both refer to ABCD. Okay. Now we say X equals FGH. What does assignment mean in Python? It means basically X equals EFGH means now X will refer to the string EFGH. What does that change? It changes X. Does it change anything with Y? No, not at all. And so now X is EFGH, but Y continues to refer to ABCD. All right, and Maria is asking, what is the difference with other languages? And it's funny, I posted something on my blog about this, maybe about a year or two ago. And I said, so many people get confused by this. And I got about 90% of the people responding to that blog post saying, who gets confused by this? This is so ridiculously obvious. That's nonsense that they get confused by it. Except that like 10% of the people said, oh my God, this is so confusing. I'm glad that he wrote this. So I think it's because, especially people who come from a background like C programming, where you can have variables refer not just to values, but to other variables, what's known as a pointer, that like scrambles their brains somehow and makes them think that this is a normal thing to want to do. It is not. And in Python, you don't even have that option. In Python, a variable cannot refer to another variable. A variable refers to a value. So when I say Y equals X, it doesn't mean Y is going to follow X. Is F short for function call? No. No, F is short for format here, actually. It's sort of short for format. So F turns into S string. Yeah, exactly. So, okay. Let me show you one or two other cool things here with strings. So one thing we can do with a string is we can search inside of it. So two memories were allocated. Yeah, absolutely. So here, like just to follow with that, TJ. So here we allocated memory for this string, EFGH, and we allocated memory for this string, ABCD. Absolutely. Now the fact is Python allocates so much memory all the time. This is like, who cares? But when things get big, if you want to like read in a file that's 100 gigabytes in size, you might want to think about something else because that will actually try to do it. Okay. Watch this. If I have here, so that's something, yeah. H-I-J-K-L-M-N-O-P, U-R-S-T-U-V-W-X-Y-Z. And len of S is 26. Good. So let's say I want to ask a question. Hey, is the letter Q in S? So I can say Q in S. And that returns true or false. And sure enough, Q is in S. So the in operator, in is an operator in Python just like less than, just like greater than, just like equal, and not equal. I can even say, is QRS in S? And the answer is yes. But what if I say, is QS in S? The answer is no. So basically what's happening here is Python is starting to be in the string, saying, I'm looking for Q. Like, let's do this first. Found Q, great, the answer is true. Here with QRS, it says, okay, I'm looking. Oh, I found Q, and then I found R, then I found S. Answer is true. And it says, okay, I'm looking for QS. Looking, it finds Q, but then does not find S, so it returns false. So you can treat a string as something you're going to search inside of. You can treat it in that way by using in. And that is something that people are not always used to. For example, right, I can say here, let's do this. I can say here, name equals input, enter your name. And I can say letter equals input, enter a letter. So I can, oh, well, fine. I'll say room, and I'll say here V. Okay, and then I can say here, if letter in name, print, yes, I found letter in name. Else, print, sorry, I didn't, oh, don't do that, did not find letter in name. So it says here, yes, I found V and Reuven, very good. But if I say here, yeah, exactly. So Mike, you're saying QS must be true, follow each other. So basically what's happening is it's looking for this thing as like one piece. It's not saying, is Q there and is S there? It's saying, is QS there? Or by contrast, is QRS there? Okay. And so here, like if I enter, I'll say Reuven, and is the letter X in my name. So if letter in name, no, it's not going to be there. I did not find X in Reuven. A lot of mystery in me, but no X. So this means that we can treat strings as collections, as things that we can like search inside of. And that adds to their power immensely. It means that I can do all sorts of like wild, cool things. All right, any more questions until here? All right, let me show you a few more things, and even if there are questions, it's fine. Remember that Python is case sensitive. And so if I say here, is V in name, the answer is true. But is capital V in name, answer is false. So you gotta be careful, right? As far as Python is concerned, lowercase v and capital V, completely different characters. Why would you even think that they're similar? Now, we as humans see them as similar, right? Variations on something, but like that's not necessarily true for for Python. So you need to be careful. Now we'll talk next time about methods and some of these string methods that we can use to play with it in various ways. I also want to show you, sort of come back to something we talked about either last time or 2 times ago in terms of you know what? Let's not do that. Let's not do that. I just don't want to complicate things too much. So we can basically search in a string. We can check a string actually as well. Like, watch this. I can say here a variation of what I just did. I can say here name equals input, enter your name, and then I can say here letter equals input, enter a letter. And I can say here if letter equals name 0, print yes, your name starts with, or your name starts with letter. Else print, say, oh, get to an F string there. F, no, your name starts with name 0, not with letter. So if I now say, right, my name is Ruben, and enter letter capital R, yes, your name Ruben starts with capital R. Very good. But if I say Ruben, I say even lowercase r, but let's even say S. No, your name starts with R, not with S. And so you see here, I could start using this index to retrieve things and play with things and like start having some logic there. Okay, questions or comments until here? All right, let's do a short exercise. And of course, obviously, people can questions. I want to give you a few minutes to try an exercise. I'm hoping there's enough time for you to do this. If not, I really don't want you to have pressure. And I'll give you more exercises in the forum as well. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to ask the user to enter their name and then indicate if their name ends with a vowel. All right, that would be A, E, I, O, or U. And here's a hint. Actually, I'm going to teach you one more thing, and then I'll give this to you. So let's say I want to get the last letter of a name. So name here is Ruben. I want to get the last letter from there. How could I do that? Well, one way is I could say name, square brackets, len name -1. How is that possible? Well, we know that the first letter is 0. And so the last letter is going to be len -1. So if I say, give me name of len -1, sure enough, I'll get lowercase n, which is the last letter of my name. Here's a cool Python trick. Negative indexes. Name of -1 means read the first character from the right side. And that's exactly the same as saying len of name -1. So if you want to grab the last letter, and you can do this, like you can do it more. I can say name of -2, and so on and so forth. So if you want to use positive indexes, you can go from the left, or if you want to go from the left, use positive indexes. If you want to go from the right, use negative indexes. Okay, so 2 hints for working with this. So ask the user to enter the name, indicate the name ends with a vowel. So hint 1, check the last name with a negative index. And hint 2, use in to find out if the letter is a vowel. This last part is really subtle and tricky. So I'm going to give you like 2-3 minutes to work on this. If it's not enough time, no stress, okay? So I'll give you 2-3 minutes. If meanwhile people have questions or whatever, feel free to send them in the chat. We will then go over this. I'll show you one or two more cool string things, and then I think we will finish up for today. So Roy is asking, can you recommend a path for us to move forward at our own pace? You mean this isn't enough, eh? Okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. So there are a few different ways that you can go. One is, let me write his name down here. I might have mentioned it elsewhere, I can't remember. I mentioned it quite a bit. And now, of course, Zed Shaw. So Zed Shaw's Learn Python the Hard Way. And his approach is you're only going to learn if you use the language. And so he gives you like exercise after exercise after exercise and sort of builds up your skills there. I've heard but never seen that MIT has some course in Python that's supposedly good. I mean, I'm biased. I went to MIT, so like, yay, MIT. But I've heard, I don't know, and it might be for people who've experience in other languages. I really don't know. I just saw that Stanford is something also. Here's the problem. A lot of these courses assume that you already have some background in programming. Zed Shaw's definitely does not. Now, people who have taken his Learn Python the Hard way, I've gotten very mixed reviews on it. Like, I've gotten very mixed reviews on it. Some people absolutely love it, and some people are like, oh my God, like it was not my thing. You know, you'll find someone who sort of matches your style, your tone. Oh, I know. Also look at Head First Python, published by O'Reilly, which is like a testament to their very strong brand. And by the way, I might be doing some training for O'Reilly also, but like wait, hold on, let me just check with Manning, my publisher. Check, because I know that they have something like free now. Manning. It was like, oh, here we go. Let me just see, and if I'll just paste this in the chat. So O'Reilly has a whole Head First series, which is meant for people who are sort of starting off in programming, and I'm pretty darn sure they have a Head First Python. And it's not coming up for whatever reason, but I'm going to put this here. Manning, which is the publisher I'm using for my my book, Python Workout, which should be coming out very soon. They have like they're giving away a whole lot of free books. Yeah, here we go. Get Programming, Learn to Code with Python. It is free through May 30th. So grab it. And Manning, you're like, I have to say, I've been super, super happy and impressed with everything they've done, like on my book and working with them. So yay them. I'm probably gonna do some more books with them too. I think I saw Eric raise his hand. Just jump into the chat. If you have a question, you can put it in the chat there, or you can use the Q&A. That's, you know, anything's fine. Tell you what, while I wait for that, let's go over this exercise here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say name equals input, enter your name, okay? And then I'm going to say here, what? Well, now that we've got the person's name, well, let's get it. Oh, all right, enter your name, so I'm going to say Ruben. And now I want to know, is that last letter a vowel? So how can we do it? We have a few different options. One is the sort of brute force option. This will work. Also good if you get paid by the hour. I can say here, if name minus 1 equals A, or name minus 1, or name minus 1 equals E, or name minus 1 equal I. You see where I'm going with this, right? And like, oh my God, no one wants to write code like this. I promise you no one wants to read code like this also. All right, so I'm going to say here U or O. But this will work. Or then we say here print, yes, your name ends with a vowel. Right? So it'll say, oh, and I probably should have an else there just in case, right? Else print, your name does not end with a vowel. Sure enough, there we go. And I can even put here name, make it a fancy F string. All right, but if I do it again, and here I'll use my eldest daughter's name, and then it'll say here, your name ends with a vowel. Fantastic, but oh my God, I don't want to write code like this. So here's how I can piece together, this is not obvious. I can say if name minus 1, what is that? What is name minus 1? It's the last letter of the name. If name minus 1 in A-E-I-O-U. See what I did there? I basically used the string as a collection that I can search inside of. And then we can say, yes, your name ends with val or not. Isn't that cool? This is where Python really starts to shine, that some of these, many of these data structures basically lend themselves to a whole lot of different, very flexible uses. And so getting into that headspace, getting to that mindset of not only seeing a string as, oh, it's whatever people type, oh, it's whatever's in a file, but I can actually use it and use it powerfully is a really, really big idea. And it's important to think of it that way. Okay. So we have seen a whole lot with strings today, and there's lots more to talk about. So first of all, we saw defining strings with either single quotes or double quotes. And we'll talk about more kinds of quotes next time. Okay, so that was like thing one. We saw that strings are, oh, actually, let's talk about first, retrieve one item from a string using square brackets. So, for example, we can say here S of 5, right? And indexes start at 0. By the way, this means that if a string is empty, right? If we have the empty string, it has literally nothing in there. Oh, so here, Ibai says, I try to find vowels equals A, E, I, O, U. Did you remember to put quotes around it? Because that's not what you put. It could be. I'm just like looking at what you put in the chat here. Assigning vowels equals A, E, I, O, U. Remember, this has to be. Oh, and Ronnie did it as like what we call a tuple. Okay, welcome to programming, folks. This happens to all of us all the time. Just we work in like quiet cubicles, so we don't tell anyone. Okay, so here we go. We're in offices at home nowadays. Our indexes start at 0, and then what we can do is we can say slices are of the form start : end. So e.g. s from 3 until 5. Note that it's until, not including the end. And we can use in to retrieve or to check if a string is in another string. And it's always, so like, X in ABC, XYZ. It's always big in, little in big. Right? Always remember that direction. People often get that confused. And finally, strings are immutable. Oh, we can use let's do this. Indexes start at 0. Negative indexes go from the right. And finally, yes, strings are immutable, can never be changed. By the way, so far, all of the data we've been dealing with has been immutable. Integers are also immutable. But we don't think about them as immutable, right? Like, I don't want to change the value of 2 to be like 2.5. I want it to remain 2. It's just when we start dealing with strings that becomes more obvious. And we'll be talking more and more about what's mutable, what's immutable as we work on it together. All right, so these are the basic concepts we went over today. I will put a few exercises in the forum probably tomorrow evening or Sunday. And next week, we're going to continue talking about strings. We're going to talk about a bunch of methods. And methods are like fancy functions that are attached to strings. And we're going to see some fancy stuff we can do. And then we will start talking about loops and all sorts of other cool, fun string stuff. Last chance for questions for today. All right, folks. Thank you so much. This is super, super fun for me. I'm really glad that you came. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies if you didn't like it. And I will see you all next week. Those of you celebrating a holiday nowadays, enjoy it. Those of you not having a holiday, consider having one. All right, have a great weekend, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you. Thank you, guys. All right, yeah, stay safe, and the recording should be up within the next hour or so on what was I going to say, on everything. Oh, so glad you guys are learning. Excellent. All right, I'm going to shut this off here. See you guys around. Bye-bye.